Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are and when you are listening to this. My name's Steve Holland, and this is Comic Cuts, the final Comic Cuts for the year. I don't think I'm going to be doing another one. I think next Friday is Boxing Day. So, yes. Last one of the year. And I just thought I'd do a top 10 sellers from Bear Alley for the past year, for 2025. Bear Alley Books doesn't sell that many copies. I sort of managed to make a living from it, but not much of one, and I do have to do other jobs at the same time. But that was never the intention of Bear Alley Books. Was always to really, because I'd been freelance for many, many years, was to be my pension, if you like. The idea was that I would have 100 books out by the time I retired, and they would continue to sell a few copies here, a few copies there. And those micro payments would add up to something that would supplement my pension. Of course, that hasn't quite worked out because there have been periods when I've had to go away and actually earn some money to pay the rent. Bear Alley Books was quite prolific in the early years, say 2011 to 2014. I think I was getting like 6 books out a year. Then, unfortunately, I ran out of money, so I had to go and do some work. For a while, I was editing a magazine called Hotel Business, which didn't pay that well, but did allow me freedom because I could do it from home. It did allow me the freedom to carry on writing. So that was a few years. There was a gap in the Bear Alley Books CV, if you like. So at the end of 2025, so it's 14 years later, I've published about 50 books. But I thought if I could get enough books out each year, and I owned them, they would continue to sell over a period of time for years to come. So that would like supplement my pension. But I always thought, well, I'm never going to stop writing. I'm never going to stop researching this stuff. And hopefully there will be people out there still buying it. That's kind of reflected in the top 10 because oddly enough, the number 10 book is Lion. So the Lion Index, which you can see now, the Lion Index was the second new index that I put out and was the biggest volume that I'd printed at that time, which was 2012. It was a lot of work. I thoroughly enjoyed putting the Lion book together. A lot of history in there, and I incorporated some interviews. It was one of the books that I had done as a photocopied book many years before, back in the early 1990s. And Lion it certainly has a fond place in my heart because it was the first index. That first index was compiled by a chap called Gary Armitage, who I corresponded with for a little while through, I met him through the Association of Comics Enthusiasts. And we started writing letters to each other. He was very keen on Lion. I was very keen on Valiant. And he sent me a list of stories that featured the spider. And I responded with a list of stories that featured the steel claw. So that then grew, and he sent me a fairly solid index to Lion. And I then spent a couple of months putting together a reasonably solid index to Valiant. And that's where it all started. With the new version, I absolutely thoroughly revamped it, but it still owes a debt to Gary Armitage, um, as do the other indexes that I put together with various people. If it hadn't been for him sending me that list of spider character appearances, I may not have actually thought to, I thought this is fascinating, sort of like what, we should do more of these indexes. And I ended up working with David Ashford, my mate John Allen Clark, doing Knockout and Comet and Sun. We did Buster, all sorts. It was fascinating, sort of like, and it was putting down what we knew, helped to galvanize other people to contribute some stuff, whether it was like end dates of stories which we didn't know about, names of artists. Obviously, I was working by then with David Roach, and we were filling in a lot of artists' names. Quite a few of the editors were still around. People like Gil Page was still around, and I was tapping them for information all the time. So yeah, that's how the indexes grew, and I'm pleased to see that the Lion is still selling. Okay, in ninth place is the complete Eagles over the Western Front, a fantastic strip that ran in Look and Learn, drawn by Bill Lacey, written by Mike Butterworth. This was the first strip that I reprinted. I originally did it in 3 volumes because I was a bit worried about having to pay out for a larger volume at the time. Obviously, I'd only put out 1 book before that. It was the Hurricane Index, and it was like a 48-page little pamphlet-y, more of a pamphlet-y thing than a full-length book. The Eagles, the first volume was 96 pages, I think. And because I didn't know that there was a market for this sort of stuff still, I was a bit cautious and decided to split the strip into 3 volumes, which I did. Put the 3 volumes together and then release them a few weeks or a couple of months apart, which you may recognize from the recent Mytech release, because I still haven't got the money to do full print runs of larger books. So yes, Complete Eagles I put together. I think that came out in 2020 or somewhere around there, 2021, and it continues to sell, just on the sheer quality of. I think people see the artwork and people see the cover. The cover is a Graham Coaten piece of artwork, and it continues to sell. And a lot of that is now down to word of mouth, because I often find that I sell a copy, and then 2 or 3 more copies will go, and I do believe that that's word of mouth. At number 8 is the Air Ace Companion, which is the latest book from me. In 2006, David Roach and I put together the War Libraries, which collected together all our knowledge of war, battle, and air race picture libraries. That book is now out of print. So I wanted to, well, first of all, I wanted to get them back in print. But I thought, well, we can do it in a different way, because we had the good fortune many years ago to discover that a lot of the Air Ace and War picture libraries, the cover artwork had survived. It was discovered in a warehouse in Canning Town. Some of it had appeared. David did a couple of books for Carlton, but those were also out of print. So I thought, well, what I can do is combine the artwork with the lists, with some essays on the various artists who contributed, and a nice new introduction. So revealing a few things that we've discovered in the 20 odd years since the previous book was written. So, So that was done, and I'm hoping that next year I can start work on the War Picture Library Companion, and we'll do a Battle Picture Library Companion. The Battle, I had a very good piece of luck and discovered some payment records for Battle its later years. So that is now the most complete of the indexes associated with those three titles. So by the time I've finished the 3 volumes, what you'll actually have is biographical sketches on something akin to 50 of the best artists that worked on the war libraries for Fleetway. So, but that's all in the future. Coming back to 2025, at number 7 is Dreaming of Utopia, which came out last year, 2024. It was the tail end, so most of the sales have been this year, early this year. Utopian Publications was something that quite fascinated me because I was interested in science fiction and in the paperbacks published just after the war. This company combined the two. It was set up by a science fiction writer called Benson Herbert, and he worked in association with a publisher called Lloyd Cole. And what had happened is, and I'm going to jump ahead here, at number 6 is Beyond the Void, which was a history of Badger books. And I'd been talking about revamping an old index that I did in, I think, 1997, somewhere around there, which was a photocopied fanzine. It was the newsletter of the British Association of Paperback Collectors, known as BAPSI. I ran the newsletter for a few years. I called it PBO. Some of you will remember that. Most of you will have never heard of it because it basically had a circulation of about 50. So so a couple of years ago, I wanted to do Beyond the Void, and I found some old correspondence while I was revamping my Hank Janson book, the Trials of Hank Janson. I found all the old correspondence that had gone into this PBO episode. So and I wanted to do it in color because the photocopies had come out really dark. So you couldn't actually see the artwork. In the meantime, I had, in fact, managed to contact the family of one of the major writers, and so the stars aligned on that one. So number 6, Beyond the Void, came out in March 2024, and I was looking for a project. I wanted to do a follow-up to keep up the momentum of that. And so I'd actually started writing about a company called Ski Unlimited, but I knew that I couldn't get hold of the artwork. The cover artwork was going to take me a long time to put together because I'd spent so long cleaning up something like 500 images for the Beyond the Void book. So I knew it was going to take me a long time. So I decided I'd do Utopian because I could do it quicker and get the book out in time for one of the paperback and pulp book fairs. I think that was in November. So November 2024, Dreaming of Utopia. It was a fun book. When I started researching it, I discovered quite a lot of dodgy stuff had been going on with one of the publishers. And Benson Herbert then stepped aside, set up Utopian Publications, and they put out a number of rather weird science fiction short stories, but each one had a cover with a nude woman. You could do that back in those days. You could actually put nudes on covers. I mean, that period didn't last long, but I don't think it's something that most people will know. So, and then Benson was doing a London Life style set of magazines, which eventually got him into trouble with the law. But yeah, an absolutely fascinating story. So really, that covers number 6 as well, Beyond the Void, which was also a fascinating story about a publisher who really published. They had 2 writers in the main who wrote nearly all of they wrote at least half of their output, um, and they gained this terrible reputation for their science fiction novels. And the science fiction novels were mostly written by Lionel Fanthorpe, the Reverend Lionel Fanthorpe, who is a delightful man, um, still going, and another chap called John Glasby, who is unfortunately no longer with us, but who was wrote some very good stories. He was mostly writing the war stories, but he was churning out a new book every 10 days. So, yeah, but he used, I mean, a couple of hundred pen names. So he was never really credited with the books that he'd written. So he was a bit of a secret that was discovered by Mike Ashley and Phil Harbottle many years ago, back in the late 70s. They revealed that this chap John Glasby existed. So yeah, another fascinating story of an old paperback firm that managed to survive into the 1970s. Amazing. Right, okay, so number 5, Phantom Patrol. This is a book I licensed from Rebellion. It was one of the books that I wanted to do when I dreamed up Bear Alley Books back in 2009. Circumstances meant that I couldn't carry on with my plans at that time. We ran into it was it was a financial problem, not mine, but the demands of the then copyright holder. They had certain minimum payments that they wanted to achieve, and the proposal that I put together didn't meet those minimum payments. But I naively had thought that we had a done deal. So I was, saying, "Oh, it's all, it's all happening. It really is happening." But anyway, Phantom Patrol was one of those 2 books that I had originally planned, and a few copies snuck out because I'd printed up a load of review copies, and yeah, so a few people have got the original 2009 version. Hold on to them. Unfortunately for you, there is a new version that came out in 2024. So the 2024 version is now out. It's got a couple of extra essays in it, and I think it's much nicer production. It has one of the finest covers I've ever seen from Chris Weston, and I'm very proud that it was only, what, 15 years late. I mean, what do you expect of a man? So, number 4 in our Bear Alley Books top 10 is Mytek the Mighty Volume 4. You may now see a pattern emerging. Yeah, Mytek. So, number 4, Volume 4. Number 3, Volume 3. Number 2, Volume 2. Number 1, Volume 1. There you go. Mytek. What can I say about Mytek? I started reading Valiant in 1969 when I was 7, and one of the strips in there was Mytek the Mighty, but it was coming to an end. I obviously didn't realise this at the time, but the storyline that was running when I started buying Valiant was astounding. I couldn't believe it. It involved Mytek going to a planet to rescue some astronauts who were stranded there. But when he lands, his shadow creeps away from him and disappears down a little hole that he can't get to. He can't get. It's just, I couldn't believe it. So yeah, Mytek, and I gave up. The strip ended in 1970. I stopped reading Valiant in 74, and then started reading Vulcan later on, which was reprinting the early Mytech strips, the very first Mytech strips, in fact, in colour. So it went from Bill Lacey to Eric Bradbury rather than the other way around, which it had done in Valiant. So I started reading the early stories of Mytech, and it was, it just rekindled that love of the strip. And they were reprinting the Steel Claw and various others, Kelly's Eye, and I loved Vulcan. And then it merged into Valiant, so I was reading Valiant again. And they did a terrible job of merging the two. Basically, they wanted to finish off all the strips, so they put them in the middle pages in black and white, so you had the Trigon Empire in black and white, and they edited them down until it became ridiculous. So yeah, unfortunately, Mytech suffered from not being completed again. And I had the opportunity. I spoke to Rebellion in, I think, 2023. I actually went over to Oxford and talked to them about a couple of projects, and that was the beginning of trying to revive the idea of doing the Phantom Patrol. And that worked out. That has worked out fine. So I've now done Mytech, but it took me the first 6 months of the year to get the whole thing together. And but I liked the idea. I wanted to make sure that the 4 volumes were complete before I put out the first volume. And yes, they've done okay. People are now buying all 4 volumes in one go. People are catching up with volume 3 and 4. So I'm hoping that will continue to sell into next year. So yeah, I suppose I should say, what are my plans for next year? I'm hoping that the Action Index, it will be called Action: The Sevenpenny Nightmare. I'm hoping that will be out in February. The situation at the moment is I have finished writing it. I am rereading at the moment, and somebody else is also reading it just to make sure I haven't made any complete gaffes. It's taking a little longer than I'd hoped. I had hoped to be doing the layouts this month, but it's already the, what is it? It's the 18th today. You'll be seeing this on the 19th. It's the 18th today, and I haven't actually started doing layouts. I'm still working with the text just to make sure that is perfect. And it's also very long. There is a lot to say about Action. There is a lot that has been said, and I've tried to gather all the information together. So it's involved reading an awful lot of things. I think I know why Action was cancelled in the first instance, why it went on hiatus. And it had a little more than just it being picked on by the Daily Mail. I'll leave it there. I'll leave it for you to discover. But I'm hoping to have that in February. I have my eyes on a couple of other comic strip reprints. Obviously, there's the War Picture Library companion to start writing. A couple of little bits are already written for that, but still a long way to go. And at some point, I'm thinking that the next index will be Valiant. I did start writing Valiant many years ago. About 2019, I think I actually put quite a bit together for an introduction, but then I stopped. And oddly enough, I started doing the Action back then, and then I ran out of money, and yeah, so the story goes. But yeah, I'm hoping that I can get back to Valiant in the next 12 months. Whether it comes out next year, I don't know. These things do. they seem to take longer and longer. I think one of the reasons is that we know more. There's more details to put in that we know. Back when I wrote an introduction in the 1990s, didn't know much about the artists, didn't know a huge amount about how the comic was put together. So the introductions were actually much shorter, much easier to write, just through ignorance. You know, the action is something akin to 60,000 words of detail, because so many of the creators have spoken about it in the past. And I've corresponded with a few people for new details, and I must admit I'm rather pleased that I've now finished the writing on it. It just seemed to go on forever. That's the top 10 for this year. That gives you a few ideas on what's going to be happening next year. And I'm just going to keep going as long as I can. That just leaves me to say Merry Christmas. Through my jumper, I can say Merry Christmas. All the best for 2026. And please keep buying my books. Thank you very much. Farewell. I'll talk to you next year. Bye. Bye, bye, bye.